Good evening, councillors, staff, ladies and gentlemen of the gallery and those who may be watching online. Welcome to our council meeting. The City of Swan disclaims any liability for any loss arising from any person or body relying on any statement, discussion, recommendation or decision made during this meeting. Where an application for an approval, a licence or the like is considered or determined during the meeting, the City warns that neither the applicant nor any other person or body should rely upon that discussion or determination until written notice of either an approval and the conditions which relate to it or the refusal of the application has been issued by the City. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed. The recording will also be archived and made available on the City's website after the meeting. If you choose to participate in the meeting during public question time, public statement time, it is assumed that your consent is given for the audio to be recorded. Please keep your comments respectful to the council and other members of the community. Visual images of the public will not be captured. Conditions of entry: no electronic, visual or audio recording or transmitting device or instrument is permitted to be used. A person who breaches this provision of the City of Swan Media Procedures Local Law 2019 will be required to immediately leave the premises. And councillors, as we commence this meeting, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Whadjuk Noongar people, and pay respect to their elders past, present and emerging. Attendance and apologies. I have Councillor Badovnik on leave, an apology from Mr Mark Bishop. Are there any apologies, Mr CEO?
No, Mr Mayor, we have no further apologies.
Mr Mayor, Councillor Claire Scanlon apologises as she will be late, but she is expected to join the meeting later.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Declaration of financial and proximity interests and interests affecting impartiality. Part 4.3, the City of Swan's caretaker provision policy states the following. For the purposes of transparency and the benefit of the public gallery, candidates are requested to identify themselves an election candidate prior to asking a question, making a statement at a briefing session, agenda forum, a council meeting or a committee meeting. The following councillors are candidates for the upcoming local government election: Councillor Catalano in the Altone ward, Councillor Kiley also in the Altone ward, myself in the Pearce ward, Councillor Jones in the Pearce ward and Councillor Zanino in Swan Valley, Gidgee. This is taken to apply to the entirety of the meeting and the relevant councillors will not be required to identify their candidacy each time they address the meeting. Other impartialities, Mr CEO, are as declared at the agenda forum. Do you wish to read them? Yep. You've got an additional one.
Yep, Mr Mayor, I've got a couple of additional ones to ones that are within the agenda. Councillor Kiley in relation to item 4.6, which is to amend aspects of the development approval DA 41419 to include solar panels to 2 sheds, lot 6 number 26, lot 151 number 28 and lot 350 number 30 Swan Street East, and lot 22 number 53 East Street Guildford DA 41419E. That's an impartiality interest, as Councillor Kiley is an executive of the Guildford Association and may have contributed to submissions made in relation to the item. Also, Councillor Kiley in relation to item 5.1, which is the proposed permanent road closure, a portion of Mears Street in Guildford, and that is an impartiality interest. Also from Councillor Richardson in relation to item 4.4, which is the proposed educational establishment, private primary school, lot 13, Stirling Crescent, Hazelmere, DA 518 of 2021. That's an impartiality as the architect is a friend of Councillor Richardson.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Are there any others from either councillors or staff? No? That takes us now to public question time. Questions and answers recorded in the minutes of the meeting may...
Just another impartiality.
Another one?
Yep.
Yes, Councillor.
4.6.
St Jude, sorry.
Yeah,
4.6.
item 4.6.
And the interest is?
Member of the Guildford Association.
Okay, thank you. Before we move on, no others? Okay, we go back to public question time. Questions and answers recorded in the minutes of the meeting may be summarised in accordance with the Local Government Administration Regulations of 1996. Questions and answers marked with an asterisk have been amended, either for the purpose of summarising, for example, removing preambles, statements or editing. 5.1, answers to questions taken on notice. Questions at our previous council meeting of the 25th of August from Mr Aaron Bowman, Jessie Flay, Karen Mowat. The answers have been included in the agenda. 5.2, questions relating to reports contained in the agenda. 5.2.1, questions for which due notice has been given. There are nil. Questions without due notice. And I have Mr Aaron Bowman with questions relating to items on the agenda.
Mr Mayor, in accordance with section 4.13 of Council Policy C169, I am required to advise the meeting that I am a candidate in the upcoming election prior to asking my questions tonight. My questions are in regards to items C1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 and 1.8. First question, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, am I correct that in the City of Swan's Meeting Procedure Local Law 2019, that section 211 stipulates the rules around notice of motions, and in particular item 211 subsection 1 states that they must relate to the good government of persons in the district?
Yeah, correct. I believe, Mr Albright, that is correct, yes.
Question 2, Mr Mayor, does the City of Swan caretaker policy state that during the caretaker period which the City is currently in, that reports requested by any councillor that in the CEO's opinions may be perceived within the general community as an electoral issue, that they are not to be included?
Mr CEO.
Through you, Mr Mayor, that is correct, but in response to that as well, the Meeting Procedures Local Law also has to ensure that any items are against a written law or breach of any written law, and that's why the notices of motion are included in today's agenda.
Third question, Mr Mayor. Does the City of Swan have a thorough agenda review process whereby the CEO and other senior staff review the agenda before being published?
Yes, we do.
The answer is yes, Mr Mayor.
Fourth question, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, did the CEO, in accordance with section 211, subsection 4 of the City of Swan Meeting Procedure Local Law 2019, raise any concerns with you on any of the 8 notice of motions I've referred to previously? And if so, why were they not excluded from the agenda?
Yes, and Mr CEO has already explained why they are on the agenda.
Mr Mayor, given that it would seem, in my opinion, at least 7 of the 8 notices of motions appear to be in breach of the City of Swan's caretaker policy and or the Meeting Procedure Local Law 2019, will you now immediately request the CEO to remove these items from tonight's agenda?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. No, the items will be included within the agenda tonight. As I explained previously, Mr Beaumont, in relation to the Meeting Procedures Local Law, they can't be written out because they're not against a breach of any written law.
Thank you. Any other member of the gallery wish to ask a question relating to any items on the agenda? No, thank you. We know 5.3, other questions. Questions from which due notice has been given. Questions from the following people have been... questions from the following people were provided in writing with due notice and have either been answered or taken on notice. Questions from Mr Daniel Pisano, Nicole Jarvis, Philip Briley and Ms Jacqueline Jones. Now move to those people who are registered to ask questions of a general nature, and the first is Mr Sam Ashtonavasis. Hope I got that correct.
Good evening, Mr Mayor. Question 1. Are you aware that historically there was signage stating the name of the suburb of the Vines on the gatehouse situated at the start of Vines Avenue?
Been a while, but I do recall something there long ago.
Is Council aware that the Vines Residents Association has received correspondence from residents that would like the signage reinstated on the gatehouse?
Not at this point in time.
Would Council consider allowing signage to be reinstated on the gatehouse, and if so, would Council be willing to contribute to the cost?
We'd have to take that on notice as something to consider.
And finally, in regards to the recently planted trees on Chateau Place, 2 have died and 3 are dying. What is Council prepared to do to prevent further trees from dying?
Mr Coaten?
Oh, I'll take that on notice, but we will sort it out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Also registered to ask questions is Mr Rad Dickinson.
Good evening, Mr Mayor, councillors. My question is about the development contribution plan at Henley Brook. I asked this question probably 4 meetings ago. We came to the last meeting, it was withdrawn for comment. There's about 30 of us now have lost deals with developers because of this contribution plan. Can you give me an update on that, please, and what we expect it to be released for public comment?
Mr Russell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. What I can advise the council is that the city staff have met with the key landowner entities in Henley Brook, Mirvac and Progress Developments, to run through the draft cost contribution estimates for infrastructure. And as a result of that process, we're in the process of getting a second opinion by a quantity surveyor to further review the costs. And we anticipate, once that is done, sometime estimated in about the middle of November, we would hope to revise the cost estimates in the DCP and present that item back to a council meeting in either December of this year or January, if there is not a January council meeting at this stage, then at the earliest meeting of February 2022, if not in December of this year, whereby we would say to council to endorse those costs, and then we would put it out for public consultation for a 60-day period from that point in time.
Thank you, Mr Russell.
Excuse me, Mr Mayor, that was February next year, was it, the release of that? Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
Through Mr Mayor, yes, worst case scenario, February 2022. Depending on timing, it could be January if there is a January council meeting 2022, or conceivably at the very earliest, but no guarantee, the December council meeting this year.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Dickinson. Next questions are from Mr Gavin Troy.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. At the ordinary council meeting of the 25th of August, I was guilty of a somewhat lengthy background that listed 11 items of concern requiring discussions between the City of Swan and the MRWA. I requested you, Mr Mayor, to move a motion that would lead to discussions between the City's officers and the MRWA. Was that request undertaken? If not, why not? If pursued, where is that request at as of this time?
Mr CEO.
Through you, Mr Mayor, no formal motion was put forward, but officers have had discussions with Main Roads WA in relation to that.
Thank you. My question 2, one of those 11 items identified in my 25th of August question was the Robinson Road proposed closure. Following last week's ministerial press release of Tuesday the 14th of September, that Robinson Road is to be closed in September 2022. I ask the following questions. Will Council be now raising an urgent request for a ministerial meeting, considering that the Minister's decision appears to be disregarding that A, the DA Part 2 being considered for the balance of the Bellevue Depot from Lloyd Street to Robinson Road has not yet been approved. B, the DA Part 1 approval only applied to the construction of the assembly and the testing buildings now constructed. And C, DA's Part 1 and 2 failed to make reference to Robinson Road or the requirement by the PTO for closure thereof. D, the requirement to close Robinson Road arises from the placement of a turnback facility at Robinson Road. E, the placement of the turnback at Robinson Road rather than the Lloyd Street side of the depot is due to the PTA desire to service rail cars both from the Prospector and Australind trains in the Bellevue depot, in which it has limited yard space. They are both diesel-powered rail cars. That then requires a diesel workshop, diesel refuelling facilities, diesel storage, and appropriate attention to diesel spillage. F. A PTA desire or whim may be having precedence of the Midland requirement for efficient traffic flows in the medium and long term. And my final point, G, the press release is in fact short on fact, misleading and uncommittal on future requirements. My appraisal of that press release is available if council staff so wish to access it. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Mr CEO.
Mr Mayor, just in response to that, we have requested a meeting with the Minister on a number of occasions. We've also requested for the traffic modelling as well in relation to the announcement for Robinson Road closure. And we've also invited the Minister to come and brief Council to help us understand the decision that the Minister and the PTA have ultimately made. And in addition to that as well, we'll also be going and doing a deputation to when the development application will be heard by Development WA, which I believe will be in the coming weeks. So we will be making a strong position in relation to this, but we're also committed to working with the government going forward on infrastructure projects throughout the City of Swan as well.
I compliment you, Mr Mayor, and your council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Troy. Any other members of the gallery wish to ask a question of a general nature? Yes, gentleman down the back, Mr Irwin, if you come to the microphone.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Patrick Irwin, and I must say I am a candidate for the current elections. And my question is, on what date was Council aware that Patterson Drive playing fields, Swan Park playing fields, would be buried under the proposed East Link interchange?
Mr Coaten.
I don't have an exact date. I do remember Main Roads advised us of that they needed to modify the Metropolitan Region scheme, and it was soon after we'd finished refurbishing the building at North Swan Park, and that was done in 2016-17 financial year, and we were notified soon after that that the Metropolitan Region scheme would need to be expanded to accommodate that. So obviously we can't find the exact date. I remember Main Roads came and briefed us verbally about it, and it wasn't too long after that building had been finished, so I'd suggest it was perhaps late 2017, 2018 perhaps, but I think that was probably about as close a time frame as we could get.
Thanks, Mr Coaten.
Is it possible to get a precise date?
Mr Coaten.
I don't think it would be. I don't. That was a verbal. They met with us and gave us a verbal update, and we have quite a lot of meetings with Main Roads. But I do remember it was, reasonably soon, because I remember our first thought was we've just spent $1 million upgrading that building, and now you're going to put a road through it. So, yeah, it wouldn't be possible to give an exact date, I don't think.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Irwin. And I think Mr James, I think you were the other one with the hands up.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor, councillors. My question is to the staff of the City of Swan, and in particular the current roadworks that are being undertaken at Apple Street and the new work that is being undertaken at Stock Road in Bullsbrook. Does the City of Swan currently have or planning to implement a system to calculate the dollar value of the loss of native vegetation due to developments, and that value to be used as a basis for the value of revegetation to be undertaken to replace the lost vegetation?
Mr Coaten.
The city doesn't calculate those values. Sometimes with roadworks, offsets are implemented as part of when clearing is undertaken as part of any project. Sometimes an offset is planted, but the City of Swan doesn't have a calculation in terms of a dollar figure for that.
So, to follow up, can I imply from that you don't have a value on native vegetation?
No, that's not a correct assumption.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Jones. Anyone else wish to ask a question of a general nature? No. Now move to public statement time, and a number of people have registered. Firstly is Mr Humphrey Bourgart in regards to Henley Brook Avenue. Mr Bourgart, you have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah. The Swan Valley Ratepayers and Residents Association has a significant concern regarding the composition of the Henley Brook Avenue modelling tender issued by the City of Swan. We consider these concerns very reasonable, given the importance and the long-lasting consequences that this study will have within the Swan Valley and adjacent areas. The tender document does not mention or appear to even consider adherence to the current Swan Valley Planning Act. As you are aware, the Swan Valley Planning Act has been a cornerstone of planning for the Swan Valley for over 25 years and should be a key cornerstone for any planning document. The tender assumes that Henley Brook Avenue is necessary and needs to be built and therefore remodelled. Why? As you would be aware, Council voted in March to stop all land acquisition and planning for Henley Brook Avenue south of Park Street unless updated modelling showed the need for the route. Surely this modelling should be a precursor to the assumption in the tender that Henley Brook Avenue development must proceed. The tender study area shows only Tonkin Highway north of Nangara Rose towards Mewshay. Why is Tonkin Highway south to at least Morley Drive not included? It is the opinion of the ratepayers that the volume of commuter traffic within the Swan Valley should be reduced. The tender document does not indicate that any traffic modelling will be carried out to a ring-fenced Swan Valley. The study area of the tender stops at Reed Highway, whilst the development of Henley Brook Avenue will have a significant effect on West Swan Road as it heads south towards Guildford. Why was this not included? The tender makes no reference to tourism traffic impacts. Why? The ratepayers request that the tender document in its current form will be withdrawn, rewritten to include the items raised tonight.
Thank you, Mr Bourgart. The next speaker is on Mr Chris Taylor regarding item 4.8, proposed variations to deem to comply requirements to a shed at lot 2177, number 357 Peachy Road. Jane Brooke.
Thank you very much. I actually have some paperwork that I supplied regarding a restrictive covenant, which I'm hoping will be passed. Sorry, does this need to be read before I start, or I'm not too sure?
So, what have we got? It's a legal opinion. Okay, has this been circulated to councillors?
Sorry?
So you've got the same opinion there?
I passed several copies to. I have two more if needed.
You got two more? Send them around.
Sure.
Okay, Mr Turner, you may as well make a start.
Sorry.
Mr Taylor, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. If we can just get you to make your statement.
Sorry?
If we can just get you to make your statement.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Your home is the single most important asset you purchase in your life. It is your sanctuary away from your world. It is your safety. To be given 2 minutes, personally, I think is a little bit disappointing, especially when it has such a big impact towards my home and this proposal. The objection towards this, we have tried to speak to the applicant and tried to come to a compromise, but unfortunately the applicant has been unwilling to negotiate, discuss in any way, form that we have proposed towards them. The proposed shed to be built has several places that it could be placed on the large property that they have, but so there has been no consideration to change this at all, especially for ourselves on the northern boundary side. In the last 18 months, we have gained quite a good relationship with our other neighbours, and felt when our new neighbours joined us next door that we could come together and be happy, and so on. But for some reason, we appear to have been judged, I believe, without even coming and speaking to us on any matter regarding this, the proposal for this shed. And so just lastly, my partner, she has been diagnosed with a life-threatening illness, which has been having quite a considerable effect on her health, and with everything that is happening at the moment, it is making her worse and worse. And unfortunately, she was not able to be here, but I have a friend that is hopefully going to just speak very briefly for her.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you.
The next speaker on the same item is Ms. Jennifer Hoskins.
Good evening, Shire Council members. I'm actually speaking on behalf of Wendy Turner. She's actually, I'm just going to say her statement as briefly as possible. She's apologised for not being here. She's had to attend an important event with her daughter currently in Year 12. She has said, we choose the location of our home as it's presented us with natural beauty. It was peaceful and there's space to move and grow. It generally just presented us with somewhere we could feel happy and enjoy living. Since the shed proposal next door has arisen, we have placed our objections to this positioning. The welcoming and safe place that we have used to enjoy no longer exists. We have never once objected to our neighbours having a shed. The objection has always been to the location of the proposed shed. We designed and built our home. We took into account sustainable environmental principles, ensuring that there was always an abundance of natural light. We've used hedging to shield the side of our property and many other factors. Environmentally friendly living, and we no longer have an abundance of natural light. We are unable to open any blinds on the southern side due to the neighbouring property overlooking. We have sought consultation in putting more screening on, but we have told not to waste our money. We have also spoken to one of our friends, Susie Zeck, about the shed is apparently going to be used for tinkering with his vehicles. Therefore, that suggests that he'll be in there often, and any guests that visit this property will also be hanging around the entrance, and therefore impacting our personal privacy. As spoken before, I've been diagnosed with a life-threatening illness which has resulted in emergency surgery. My life has drastically changed and I am limited to my ability to work. As a result, I can often take time out on my fresco to stop, regroup, think. This has been impacted. The shed is approved in the current location, I will no longer have a place to sit and enjoy. Further to this, I've noted that there has been photos presented that are not a true picture of the impact of our property. There's been 180-degree photos showing views to the northern side of our property. Yes, those views are in existence, but they are not the views where our house is positioned. If I was to go sit in my laundry or the dead side of our house, that would be my view. Councillors, I ask you to place yourself in our position. Would you feel happy if this was your home? Would you be happy to have your current natural and beautiful view obstructed and turned into a dark, coloured, ugly shed? Would you be happy
Ms.
to...
Hoskins, thank you. I've allowed you to go way over time, given that you actually addressed the issue. Thank you.
I was trying to condense it.
Thank you. You did well. The next speaker on this is Mr. Gareth Faint.
Good. To the CEO, Mayor and Councillors, thank you for having us. I'd like to introduce myself and my wife, Emma Faint, and myself, Gareth Faint. We address you tonight to maintain our support for the approval of the development application of our property at 357 Peachy Road, Janebrook. Since we last addressed you in the agenda meeting on the 15th of September, there has been a late written deposition presented by the residents of 359 Peachy Road, Janebrook, to the City of Swan. Unfortunately, this has not afforded us time to comprehensively address the claims detailed within. We can attest these claims and they are misleading and are becoming personal in nature, which we have no intention of becoming involved in. We have followed all due process and complied with all asked of us as the applicants. All items of concern from the Shire have been adequately addressed in our letter of justification, and the City of Swan has also recommended for approval. The process of consultation and information gathering has been ongoing over the past 14 months, and we ask the Council to make a decision and cause no further delays. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Faint. Also have some additional public statements. The first is Mr. Carl Alloy in regards to item 4.5 on the agenda. You have 2 minutes, Mr. Alloy.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, councillors. I'd like to explain to the councillors that this item is the product of negotiation between the City of Swan's consultants who did this this item for the City of Swan, and the councillors and the officers of the City of Swan over a period of 6 months or more. So, it's gone backwards and forwards for 6 months, and there's changes were made and agreed on over the period of 6 months, and the final product is here tonight, which has the officer's recommendation for approval. It's not a design. It's not the product of us or MCI just putting a plan in for approval. It's been put together with consultation with your consultants, and the reasons for refusal on this report here are not correct. They're simply wrong, and one of the other fellows will point that out. Now, this building is just replacing a building that was there before, which was being demolished because it was vandalised and burnt down. And all the car park that's around this development already exists. It's been there for 20 odd years. So it's only replacing something that was there before in a more modern it completes a development which started in 1993, and this is the final parts of it, and this complements the development that is already there in the way of its design.
Thank you. I'll let you already go a bit over
Thank
time.
you. Thank you.
Mr. Alloy was briefed very carefully. It was 2 minutes. You've got two other speakers to address the other issues.
No, there's only one more that will speak.
You've got two speakers, haven't you?
Just one.
One more. Yeah, there was, but
Ben
only
Patton
one
and
was
Terry
there.
Giles both here? Okay, and Terry Giles not here?
He is.
Okay, so I've got two speakers.
I don't need to speak on it. It's not going to speak.
Okay. Anyone else in favour of that? Okay. Carry on, Carl, for another... Well, I'll take you through to 3 minutes, all right? So...
Well, I'd just like to say that the reasons for refusing this are simply wrong. They are wrong in fact, and Mr. Patton will point that out. And it's borne out in your own office's report that it's contradictory. So I'll leave it to Mr. Patton to finish off.
Okay. On that note, the next speaker is...
One other thing, Mr. Mayor. Look, this will end up in an appeal if it doesn't get approved.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Alloy. Thank you. Next speaker is Mr. Ben Patton.
Mr. Mayor, councillors, just on the Midland Crescent investment proposal, the proposed motion by Councillor Kiley that to refuse it on Part 1A, B, C, and 2 already on page 165 of the meeting tonight, where we've provided amendments to the plans for these purposes, and they were agreed to. The Shire came back, the planning came back to us to say, please make these amendments to cover your refusal, and we agreed to it. So we don't understand why it's now here being refused again. We've already agreed to the amendments to make all the things happen. So I'm not sure why that's even here. Is there any way we can just resolve this by withdrawing the refusal?
I've taken that item, that access to 2 and 3 out. So.
Thank you,
And the
Councillor
car park starkness? Sorry, we're leaving 2 trees in there so that the car park isn't stark anymore. And then the footpath's not wide enough, that's also been addressed. Every single item that you've put in there, it has been addressed before and we've agreed to. The Shire asked us to make those amendments already and we've agreed to it. And now you're coming back to us to say that we're refusing it because you haven't done it. But we have. So I think there's only right that we get you to withdraw your refusal.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Patton. Okay, if there's no other public statements, now move to petitions. Any petitions from councillors or member of the public? Be none. Announcements by the presiding member, I have none. Members' questions. Questions taken on notice at the ordinary council meeting of the 25th from Councillor Zanino are included in the agenda. Questions to which due notice has been given. There are a number of questions from Councillor Johnson that have been answered. Additional questions have also been received by Councillor Johnson. They have been tabled and answered. Are there any other questions from councillors? Councillor Calano.
Thank you. I'm very interested in this tender document that Mr. Bogart spoke about tonight for the Henley Brook Drive road proposal. So can I have a little bit more information from staff about this tender document? Because I'm not aware of what it is.
Mr. Coates?
Yes, it's a tender document for traffic modelling for options for Henley Brook Avenue, which was, Council will recall, when at the last time the matter came before Council resolved to stop any land purchases on there and stop other work other than traffic modelling, which was to continue.
Thank you. So it's just for the traffic modelling options. Okay. And when do you think that that's going to be? When's the tender going to be completed? And what's the sort of time frame for the traffic modelling? Do you think?
Mr. Caden?
I don't have the exact times in front of me. I'd have to take that on notice.
Any further questions from councillors? Councillor McNamara.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With regard to the zoning and public consultation, and my apologies to Mr. Van der Lende, I should have put this question to him earlier. With regard to that, public consultation. It finished on the 10th of September. When will we know the result of that public consultation, and where do we go from here, and when this council is be made aware of it? Thank you.
Mr Vanderley.
Through Mr Mayor, the consultation did close on the 10th of September. When I last looked, I think that was last Friday. We've had about 31 submissions, of which 11 was in support and 20 had raised some concerns. That report is scheduled to come back to Council in November.
Yeah. Paradise Geese. Okay. Any further questions from councillors? No. We now move on to leave of absence. Mr CEO, any requests for leave of absence?
No, Mr Mayor, have no requests.
Okay. No requests from the floor. Thank you. Confirmation of the minutes. I need a move and a second that the minutes be accepted. Moved Councillor Parry, second Councillor McCulloch. Anyone against? Declare those carried. Okay. Business left over from the previous meeting. Item 13.12, the use of portion of the land for a cafe restaurant at lot 17, number 703 Nangara Road, Lexia. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved Councillor McCulloch, seconded Councillor Parry. Is there anyone against? Carried. Councillors, that now takes us to Part B. For benefit of members observing the meeting, Council uses an en bloc method of decision making. This means the agenda items where Council supports the officer's recommendation are not debated separately. One vote is taken on all of the items, and the officer's recommendation is therefore the decision of Council. Councillors, I currently have following items withdrawn: 2.1, 4.3, 4.5, 4.6, 4.10 and 4.11. I need a motion that those items not withdrawn be carried, including the confidentials.
Question, Mr Mayor. Can I withdraw 4.8 to defer it? That's the Petchy Road, Jane Brook shed.
Okay, that can be withdrawn. Okay, councillors, now move a motion those items not withdrawn be accepted. Move Councillor Parry, seconded Councillor Kiley. There's no one against. Okay, that carried. Just make a note of 4.8 in case I forget. Yeah. Okay, that now takes us to item 2.1, policy review social media. There's an officer's recommendation with an amendment from Councillor Johnson.
Mr Mayor, I've actually got an alternate motion I'd like to move.
Well, it's listed in my agenda as an amendment, Councillor, so if you'd like to read it.
Yeah, I did submit an alternate motion, so I'll go ahead with that if I can. My alternate motion is that Council resolve to amend the revised social media policy by adding an additional section 2.6e as follows. Elected members are requested to post on social media under their own name and not use aliases. 2. Adopt the revised policy POLC 159 social media as amended. 3. Reason for changing the officer's recommendation that it is important to be able to identify councillors' posts for reasons of compliance with the Code of Conduct. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kiley, is there anyone against? There is. Councillor McNamara, do you wish to debate it? No. In that case, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Given that we've got 2 councillors away, motion is carried. Now move to item 4.3, responsible authority report, proposed roadhouse at lot 159, number 1769 Nees Road, Bullsbrook, and an amendment to the council officer's recommendation from Councillor Johnson.
I'm just working my way through this. Here we go. Yeah, Mr Mayor, I think for this one we do need a mover and a seconder.
Well, your last one was an amendment. Okay.
Yeah,
Can I have a mover and a second to the officer's report? Moved. Anybody? Thank you. Moved Councillor Parry. Yeah, hang on. Wait. Just give me 2 seconds. Moved Councillor Parry, seconded Councillor Congerton. Councillors, there is a amendment from Councillor Johnson. So, Councillor Johnson, hear your amendment.
Actually, Mr Mayor, I think the meeting procedure, if we should follow, is this. The mover and seconder need to explain what they're doing, and then the opposer needs to debate.
No, just move your amendment, please, Councillor. We're working with some stuff here, so I'd like you to just read your amendment. Thank you.
But if we take the amendment approach, then the meeting procedures indicate that the mover speaks unless they decide not to, and then the seconder speaks unless they decide not to, and then those opposed.
Well, Councillor, I'll put it this way. We could debate the amendment already, the motion already put, and your amendment won't get a word in. So what we've done, and you've been fully aware, I know the discussion we had with the CEO, so we'll ask you now to move with your amendment, please. Because I'm not going to have this debate with you now. I know fully aware of procedures, so please move your amendment.
Mr Mayor, let me explain what's going on.
No, Councillor,
here.
I've asked you twice, move your amendment. If you don't move the amendment, I'm going to put it to vote. So you better move your amendment. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, you're not following the meeting. No, Mr Mayor, point of order here. The process you're supposed to follow as the presiding member is to ask the mover to speak, and if they don't want to, they don't have to. And then the seconder speaks. And then Councillor Catalano said that she's against and wishes to debate it. So she goes. That's the process.
Well, Councillor, we are working with a new way of moving it. Now,
no, the meeting procedures have not changed.
Councillor, I'm going to ask you again if you please move your amendment. So that will then become part of the standing motion, and then we'll debate the rest of the motion.
Yeah,
so
point of order, Mim. Can we get legal advice on this? Because the meeting procedures have not changed.
Could you please inform Councillor Johnson? Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'm not a solicitor, so I'm not providing legal advice, so just to make that clarification. The meeting procedures require, first of all, for a mover and seconder to be called for the item, then for you to ask whether or not anyone is opposed to the item. What you're saying is that Councillor Johnson has indicated that he is opposed to the item because he wishes to move an amendment, and you're suggesting that he moves that amendment now. Generally you would allow the mover and the seconder to commence the debate. Councillor Johnson chose for the last item that he wanted to move his amendment as an alternate motion, which I think has caused some confusion. Okay. So my recommendation would be that the mover and the seconder open the debate, as Councillor Catalano has indicated that she wishes to debate the item and is against it.
Okay, Councillor Congerton. Councillor Parry is the mover.
I'll reserve my right on the rebut, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Congerton is the seconder.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Having read the RAR report, I'm quite comfortable with the contents of the RAR and will be supporting the officer's recommendation.
Councillor Catalano is Speaker against the motion.
Yes, thank you. So I'm opposing. I'm actually opposing that the council endorse the recommendation to the Metro JDAP because of basically the environmental impacts of this proposal, and the two clear environmental impacts are centred around the clearing of this bushland, that's the remaining bushland that's on that site, and I've given everyone a copy of that bushland. As we heard last week, a large portion of the property has already been illegally infilled, which was take to be a swampland. So there is actually a large portion of the block that is now vacant, and there's this little bit of bushland there. And then the reason why I raise that bushland is because actually that's very important to the other environmental impact, which is the contamination of the groundwater in that area. And we heard last week, and I've also had some correspondence from the North Swanland Conservation District Committee, who are opposed to it, the Ellen Brockman Integrated Catchment Group, both they're strongly opposed to it because of these environmental impacts, and the Bullsbrook residents and ratepayers are also against it. So one of the committee members from the North Swan Land Conservation District Committee went over to the site. He's the one that sent me the photographs, and he said, in contrast to what we were told last week, actually it's in good quality. And you know what? That is actually pretty good quality. There's bushland, and we're looking at marries and Priceanas, which are paper barks, and there's acacias, and it's pretty good quality bushland. So it's actually could be quite a good asset to the area, and in fact it could be an asset to the property as well. I think the thing we've got to remember actually in this chamber is that once this is gone, it is actually never going to be replaced. And we heard from somebody tonight who said, "Oh, what have we got a cost on this kind of bushland?" Well, I could tell you right here and now, you will never, ever replace that bushland, because I've been trying to do that very same thing for the last 25, 30 years, and it is not possible. Once it's gone forever. So we know it's a foraging habitat for endangered carnabees, and then we now get on to the fact that the impacts that the clearing of this land is going to have on the groundwater, because actually this vegetation is actually filtering the groundwater, and it's actually contributing to groundwater staying in a reasonable condition. Once that vegetation is gone, we're talking about groundwater that's got no filters at all. That's what vegetation does, and not to mention what it does for CO2 emissions and whatever you have. I mean, it's a big issue. So the client who came in last week with their representative came in. They're not even the landowner in this case. So I did ask him, I asked that representative, so why can't they actually site their roadhouse on the area that they've already infilled that's actually got nothing on it? Why can't they put the roadhouse on that? Why does it have to be on this bushland? Why does this bushland have to go? He said he was going to send me some information. You know what? I didn't get it. So, what is the reason for this bushland having to go, other than a bit of bushland's got to go? I mean, this is our children's and our grandchildren's heritage. It's not going to be replaced. I'm constantly having to say that in this chamber, and it's quite sad, really. So when we talk about water quality up this area, up in the Ellerbrook catchment, we're talking about water quality that impacts the Swan River downstream. That's algal blooms. This Ellenbrook catchment actually is very integral to maintaining water quality in the Swan River estuary in particular. So we've had algal blooms in the past. That's why it was identified 20 years ago as being critical to maintaining the health of the Swan River. So now we're going to piecemeal, bit by bit, remove this vegetation and let the groundwater just become contaminated. So, I mean, there you go. It's nitrification of the Ellenbrook catchment, an environmentally sensitive area. So I think that's pretty much it, basically. This is going to be our response to the Metro JDAP. No, because we need to protect the environment in the City of Swan, and we're going to stand up for it, and we're going to stand up for it right now. Thank you. It's an unacceptable risk to proceed.
Catalano. Speaker for the motion. Speaker against. Councillor Kiley.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, councillors, I point you to page 111. It says the city staff acknowledge there is a real risk of contamination to groundwater from the on-site disposal of wastewater and surface water runoff from areas around the petrol bowsers and refuelling bays where petrol and other hydrocarbons are likely to spill. It does go on and point out that there could be measures put in place to limit that potential for a spill, but I'm not comfortable with approval of a service station here, given the community opposition to it, and given that the loss of native habitat, and I will be not supporting the motion. So.
Speaker for. Speaker against.
Amendment.
Move your amendment, councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My amendment is that Condition 3 be amended to read as follows. Prior to a building permit being issued, the owner applicant must prepare and have approved an integrated water management plan to the satisfaction of the City of Swan on the advice of the Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions and the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation. The integrated water management plan, upon acceptance by the City, be reported to Council in the public agenda for noting to ensure that it is available on the public record.
Seconder? Anyone against the amendment? Declare that carried. That now becomes part of the substantive motion. Are there any further speakers for or against the substantive motion?
Mr Mayor. Councillors, I've amended the substantive motion for the reason I'm uncertain really as to which way this motion is going to go, and in the event it is approved, I want to be certain that the integrated water management plan is available to the public. We heard from those opposed to this development that one of their concerns, obviously the primary concern is the loss of vegetation, but their other concern is in the event that this development does go ahead, there will be damage to the groundwater through release of pollution. So if we make the integrated water management plan a public document, that will at least provide some assurance.
Councillor Johnson, your motion is already part of the substantive motion.
Yeah, I know.
So you're speaking against the substantive motion.
I am.
You're actually starting to debate your own amendment that's already been approved.
Mr. Mayor, I think I'm trying to explain what's going on here. So in the event, because I don't know which way this is going to go, I've amended the motion, so we now have a substantive motion with my amendments in there.
Time.
I'm now speaking in opposition to the motion, which I'm entitled to do. Councillors, we need to keep this bushland. That's the reason I'm opposed to it. I think we've heard the reasons very well expressed by Councillor Catalano, Councillor Kiley and members of the public from the public gallery. So I'll be voting against this motion. Thank you.
Any further speakers for or against? Question, Councillor Anderson.
Is this privately owned land? It's not Bush Forever land, is it? Just want to be clear.
Mr. Russell?
Yeah, it's privately owned land, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Any further speakers for or against? Councillor Parry, your right
Very
reply.
quick, Mr Mayor. If you refer to page 113, though, councillors, the Roadhouse application was referred to in DBCA and DWA. Neither the agency object to the proposal in regards to removal of the vegetation. It's pretty simple. You follow the statutory bodies and go from there. That's why I'm voting for it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now put the vote. Those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Motion's lost. So where are we now? It becomes a recommendation for refusal. Okay. 4.5 now is the proposed shop building, Strata Lot 3, number 53, The Crescent. Councillor Kiley, you have an alternate recommendation.
Councillors, my motion in relation to this item is to refuse to grant approval for the proposed development at Strata Lot 1, number 53, The Crescent, Midland, for the following reasons. One, and there's going to be some changes to this motion, Mayor. Megan, are you ready to put those? I think we can just, Mayor, just give us a moment to organise.
Would you, Councillor Kiley wants to change his motion, so you need to put. Okay, so Councillor College, just put yours on hold for just 2 seconds. Councillor, just go back to the previous motion. The recommendation was endorse the RAR on the application to the Metro JDAP.
With the amendment from Councillor Johnson.
With the amendment for Councillor Johnson. Given that we chose not to do that, there was an action alternative. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to have to ask for someone to move that we do not endorse the RAR. And then we just need to vote on it. So, Councillor, just...
Defer the item for additional information.
Or defer it.
What does council want to do in relation to that?
Well, Mr Russell, do we know when this has come to JDAP?
Through Mr Mayor, the timing of the presentation basically means that it's due in a couple of days, the submission of the grant. So the referral is going to me. The JDAP does not get a report.
Which means they'll make a decision on their own. So, councillors, I just need a motion to clarify that council does not support.
Mr Mayor, I propose we defer it. I think we've got a tangled up meeting procedure here, so my motion is to defer this until the next council meeting.
Well, no, you realise it's going to the JDAP, come hell or high water, councillor, you can't defer JDAP.
I move to refuse, Mayor.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I need. The RAR would then be the council does not endorse. So it's moved Councillor Kiley, seconded Councillor Catalano. Is anyone against it? Councillor Conklin and Councillor Barry wish to debate it. Okay. Put it back to the vote. Those in favour? And a reason
for refusal?
Yeah, wait, it's Councillor Kiley's motion.
The risk of it opposed to the water courses and groundwater.
Okay, that's the reason. Okay. Can I have that show of hands again, please? Councillors 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's carried. Okay. Right, now, Councillor Kiley, we're back to your alternate motion on 4.5.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, my motion, and we're adding point 3 to it on the screen now, so I draw your attention to that as I read it out, is to 1, refuse to grant approval for the proposed development at Strata Lot 1, number 53, the Crescent, Midland, for the following reasons. Number 1, the development will result in poor design outcomes. A, the car park is stark and uninviting and provides little space for pedestrians to access the building. B, the footpaths are not wide enough on the east and north side of the building. Number 2, the application does not fully meet the relevant development requirements of the various guiding documents related to the Midland Oval Redevelopment Master Plan area. And 3, the application does not comply with the objectives of Local Planning Scheme 17 related to the Midland Strategic Regional Centre. And I thank staff for making those changes at the end.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Catalano. Is there anyone against? Wish to debate it? Okay. In that case, Councillor Kiley.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, we've spent a lot of money, a hell of a lot of money, of ratepayers' money, getting to the point we have on Midland Oval. There's thousands of hours of staff time involved. There's years of planning that have gone into this to get us to this point, and I don't want us turning back the clock now to 1993. I want to move forward with this. I want to see good design outcomes for the Midland Oval area, and unfortunately for this application, I do not think it meets our vision for the precinct in the Midland Oval Redevelopment Master Plan. And secondly, I don't believe, and I believe it clearly does not meet our local planning scheme zoning for the central city area, which again we've spent thousands of hours and millions of dollars getting to this point. I draw your attention to, first of all, the first reason for refusal, and I've handed it around to all councillors. It was the Midland Oval Redevelopment Master Plan report from July 2015, which we took out to the community. And I draw your attention to the last 2 points on that page. Vision for the Midland Oval Precinct. The vision for the redevelopment of the precinct was set at the commencement of the master planning. It was to, amongst other things, increase the residential population and allow for apartments and building facilities that are designed to coexist happily. And another point in that vision for the Midland Oval Precinct is to encourage and attract high-quality investment. I do not believe that this application meets at least those 2 points. And there are other elements of that vision for the Midland Oval precinct in respect of access and circulation, and I've included this on the document as well. I don't believe that it meets the executive summary point about appropriate density and scale and high-quality public realm that encourages pedestrian movement. So simply on what we went out to the community with to say what we were doing on Midland Oval and what we were doing with the possibly $60+ million of ratepayers' money in that area, I do not want a return to something we were doing back in 1993 or earlier, or in the 70s or beyond that. So I would like to see an intensification of residential development in that area, and this development simply does not meet that criteria. I'll go to the second point for refusal, and I think this is an important one, seeing Mr Alloy actually raise the likelihood of it going to a SAT appeal, and I think the grounds upon which we can defend a refusal of this item would be related to our local planning scheme 17. On page 167, councillors, you'll see point A. The objectives of the Midland Strategic Regional Centre Zone are A. To ensure development of the centre accords with the WA Planning Commission's policy as it applies to activity centres. Now, in brief, the aim of the activity centre is to have increased height and density and provide for residential development. This application does not meet that requirement. I'll take you down to point D. To facilitate the complementary development of housing so as to enhance the vibrancy of the centre, improve the viability of businesses and provide a wider choice of accommodation within the district. This application does not provide any residency or accommodation within this application. And further down in H, and it's an important point, H, because it says that ensure future development and redevelopment. So it's not about something that we finished because we started it in 1993, therefore we should finish it, or it was burnt down or demolished for some reason. It's about development and future development. It should accord with the activity design principles as referred to in the State Planning Policy 4.2. And I've just brought up 4.2 here, and you can look at pretty much any part of it, and I don't believe this application accords with that state planning policy. In terms of residential density, it says 1. Commercial and residential growth should be optimised through appropriately scaled buildings and higher density development in walkable catchments of centres. This application is a single-storey development in keeping with the existing buildings that are already there. It does not accord with the aims of the State Planning Policy 4.2, nor of the Local Planning Scheme 17 objectives for that zoning. And through you, Mr Mayor, I'm somewhat surprised that staff have given the strength of our local planning scheme when you go through it and apply it to this application. I cannot understand why we've recommended for approval of this application.
Councillor Coley, that's your 5 minutes. Can you wrap it up?
30 seconds, Mayor. So it doesn't approve with our local planning scheme. It doesn't approve with our Midland Oval Redevelopment Master Plan, our objectives for the zone. And I just don't think we should be approving this, given the money and the time and the effort that's gone into trying to get density infill into this area. I think we are... I'll leave it at that, Mayor, but I cannot understand how we can approve this given our local planning scheme.
Councillor Catalano is the seconder.
Okay, thank you. Yes, look, I'm concerned. I'm also concerned about the huge investment that the city's made on behalf of ratepayers, using ratepayers' money. I mean, up to $50 million, I believe, on property already purchased around that oval. And what I'm concerned with is that we're going to start watering down the whole impetus that led to all that spending. Now, the thing is, ratepayers need to get value for money, and I'm talking about all City of Swan ratepayers who have contributed to this Midland Oval plan. So, you know, we owe it to them to actually get it right from the very beginning. And I want to say again, I am definitely not talking about the city putting any more money into it. What I'm talking about is that what we've done up to now is done in accordance with the objectives of the planning, the whole kind of planning concept around that in the first place, and that is in accordance with the state planning policies, the state government planning policies 4.2, for increased height and density in city centres near to transport nodes. It's common sense, you know, people should be living in higher density at the transport nodes. That is the whole purpose for the ratepayers having to have invested in that project. It's not about putting more money in, it's making sure that that investment realises that increased density and meets the objectives of the state planning policy. That's what we've got to do. We've got to do from here on with those ratepayers' funds that have already been invested, so that we don't have to go back to them and ask for more money because we didn't maintain the objectives that we set out. We didn't continue to maintain those objectives, and this proposal, unfortunately, does not maintain those objectives because it's single story. It should be at least 3 stories to have that increased height and intensity as the objectives of the plan, the whole kind of master plan, a structure plan and state planning policies have envisaged. So what the ratepayers and all the City of Swan ratepayers need, and I guess to save themselves money in the long run, is a successful project down there. Not talking about spending any more money. What we're talking about is what we've got has to be done properly and successfully to meet the objectives of the original city centre, activity centre structure plan. So what we don't want is, oh, well, you know, we can't put any more money into it, so we'll just put concrete tilt-ups down there, single-storey concrete tilt-ups, because, oh, well, anything goes. That is not what the ratepayers want. They want successful outcomes to the spending that we've already made. $50 million. It has got to be successful on that amount alone, and we do it by actually ensuring that each proposal that comes up meets the objectives for intensification of use of retail and residential and all the other uses in that activity centre, in that Midland activity centre. We cannot have ad hoc planning, piecemeal by piecemeal planning, that actually defeats those objectives. We have got to stick with the plan and make sure that $50 million actually delivers for the ratepayers who have already invested, or have even if they didn't know it, they've already invested in this project. So that's all. It's not about people being let down or consulting. The thing is, from now on, that intensification has to continue. We have to have a successful outcome down there. The money's been spent. The ratepayer has to see the results so that we can then move on to looking at other areas of the City of Swan that also need attention and that also need ratepayers' funds spent on them. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker against the motion. Question, Councillor Lucas.
Through you to one of the staff, I've heard during debate 2 quotes, one at 60 million, one at 50 million. Can one of the officers clarify the approximate cost that council has spent either buying land in that Midland Oval redevelopment area, please?
Through you, Mayor, we weren't talking about the cost of buying land, we were talking about the cost overall. The thousands of staff hours, the years of planning, the employees, the cost of land,
Deputy
the
Mayor's
marketing.
asked, yeah, we get that. Deputy Mayor's asked a question. Mr. Vanderlyn, if you can answer the question.
Mr. Mayor, we don't have the exact cost. That is currently being reviewed, as you know, as a result of a previous council motion, and a report will come back to council that will verify those costs.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll ask again. Speakers against the motion? No one against? Councillor Lucas.
Thank you. I'm not supporting the motion mainly because if you read the key issues on page 162, the proposed development is largely compliant with the relevant development requirements.
Point of order, Mayor. That report, those comments were written by staff, and given that it's a City of Swan development, I don't think they're relevant in this situation.
Oh, point of order, Mr. Mayor. This report was not compiled by City of Swan staff. It says that in the first paragraph of the key issues.
That's correct.
That because on the basis the City is in commercial negotiation with Midland Crescent Investments, the City made arrangements for this assessment to be independently assessed. So the City of Swan staff did not have any contribution to this report.
I seek some clarification around that, Mayor, because I'm not sure which part of that comment in that report was written by our staff.
Point one of the key issues on page 162, Councillor.
162. And Mr. Russell, if you'd like to clarify that for Councillor Collins. But thank you. Carry on, Deputy Mayor.
I'd just like to clarify the City of Swan had no input into this report. It was done by an independent consulting firm on behalf of the City because we've got ongoing negotiations with the applicant. So it's largely compliant, and where it doesn't, where there's variations, the proposal is considered that the development still meets the design, intent and the objectives of the Midland Activity Centre Structure Plan and the Midland Oval Redevelopment Urban Design Guidelines. The City will not be spending 1 cent on this application. There'll be no ratepayers. It's owned privately, and the application and the building will be done privately. It's a bit like Peters by the Sea when Observation City was built. One property owner didn't want to go high-rise and sell to Mr Bond, and he's still successful in his one-storey fish and chip burger down on the Scarborough beachfront. We don't own this land. We haven't bought it. It's owned privately, and those private owners want to build retail. They're not concerned about building multi-storey apartments, so therefore I cannot agree to all those issues in debate put up by Councillors Kiley or Catalano. Thank you.
Question, Mayor, through you.
The question?
Since when do we treat our local planning scheme as a majority, if we what was the term Mr. Councillor Lucas used, that it largely complies? Since when do we, through maybe a question for the CEO, when do we, if it does it comply or not? And I think that is actually saying that it doesn't comply.
Well, Councillor, I think you might want to save that for your closing argument. But if
as actually a question to the CEO, when do we treat the local planning scheme as sort of roughly complies or largely or 50%, maybe 55% of items? Do we treat the local planning scheme as that?
Mr. Russell, do you want to answer that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we've said many times in this chamber, planning is weighing up matters of whether something fulfils an objective or doesn't, and it's weighing up the totality of all of the issues that a scheme encompasses that can be varied. So you can have parts that maybe don't fulfil the objectives of the scheme, other parts that do, and the council can make a discretionary call on any application, say overall they're satisfied that it's largely compliant. There's nothing in the scheme that says you must be 100% compliant with the totality of your scheme, or anything that says that you can't approve it if it's only 10% compliant. It's a balancing of considering all of the matters, so council can make a decision that is completely orthodox and capable of being sustained on the basis that it's satisfied, it's largely, as the report says, largely compliant with the objectives of the scheme and the development standards.
Okay. Thank you. Question, Councillor Richardson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you to staff. Who was the independent planning consultant that undertook this assessment?
It's in the report.
First.
In the report. Okay, go back to debate. Councillor Speaker for the motion. Speaker against. No other speakers?
Yeah, I'm against the motion, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, might be worth just recapping what the Midland Oval Redevelopment Master Plan was all about. The idea was that the city buys all the land in the Morm area, which is north of the Crescent, between Sayer, Keene and Morrison, and then consolidates, subdivides, creates a new scheme amendment, creates new subdivisions, and then sells that land. And the concept was to sell the land with some kind of legally binding charge on it to ensure that it was built to 4 stories or 8 stories for the purpose that the city had determined through the Midland Oval Redevelopment Master Plan. But as Councillor Lucas has said, this particular piece of land has never been purchased by the city. It's always, in my 6 years on council, been owned by the same people. Staff, as has been said before, have recommended approval. It does meet, therefore, the zoning of LPS 17. Otherwise, staff would not have approved it, would have recommended it for approval. It's a fact we're currently reviewing the Midland Oval Redevelopment Master Plan. We're reviewing the business case. And this is an example of the fact that it appears the business case is not working. The fact that the owner of the land does not want to develop to the highest and best use that they could, which I think would probably be 8 stories in this location, indicates that the business case for building such large buildings in this location is not there, which is the point which many councillors and business people have been making all along. And I think the people proposing this, Mr Alloy and his partners, are obviously business people that understand what they're doing. As another point, if you look around the Morm site right now, there's only one major development taking place. Well, one major development, and that is the DeMol building. The other development was a mini golf, and that was not in line with the Midland Oval Redevelopment Master Plan. We never intended to put mini golf there. But this is perhaps not the highest and best use, but it is aligned to the proposed new road network, and it's privately owned. The developers can do what they want. So if the proponents feel that a single-storey building that matches their existing building is what they need, then they're entitled to invest their money in that way and go ahead. So, councillors, what this is telling us is that, first of all, the Morm is not viable. It is not viable. The business case does not stack up. We can only impose the Morm on land that we own. And as we can see, on the remaining land which we do not own, development is going ahead, but it's not turning out to be what we expected. So, councillors, this is why I'm opposed to Councillor Carley's motion and why I'm supporting staff recommendation. If a developer wishes to put up or propose a building on privately owned land that is aligned to the local planning scheme and would be a credit to Midland, because it's single-storey and is in keeping with the existing building which they have on the rest of the site, we should approve it. We don't have any alternative. Thank you.
Speaker for the motion. Any speakers for or against? Councillor Coley, you're right of reply.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, as I said before, we've invested a lot of money, time and ratepayer dollars into this development, and now we're faced with it's our second development on the area. We've had one developer come in with many millions of dollars, had faith in this overall development for the city centre, and invested a lot of money. Now, he has done so under the expectation that he would be supported by this council, and we would adhere to our plan for the whole area. He did so under the understanding that we would at least adhere to point H of our local planning scheme, where it says ensure future development and redevelopment accords with the activity centre design principles as referred to in State Planning Policy 4.2. This is not a 50% choice. It actually says we have to ensure that this happens. This local planning scheme shouldn't be ignored when we pick and choose as to who we want to have a development in the area. This is a pivotal moment for this council, whether you either get behind development in the area or you don't. You throw it, as Councillor Johnson says, admit that it's a failed program. I suggest you get behind our original plan, our local planning scheme, state planning policy, and let's consider who else we're letting down through all of this. Let's think about the shop owners who've actually run shops in the shopping centre there. They want density development there as well. What about the people of Vivash who are getting unit developments because we can't get density development within the centre of Midland, and we end up with unit developments in Vivash and other areas where they're not wanted? Councillor Johnson would suggest that maybe we should have developments in Vivash, multi-storey unit development there.
Point of order, Mr Mayor.
What's your point of order?
I think at this point, in point of order, I think Councillor Carley should resume his seat. Thank you. I did not say that. I did not say anything about multi-storey blocks in
I have to
Vivash.
agree with you. I don't think Councillor Johnson mentioned Vivash at all, Councillor. So.
I didn't say that he did, Mayor. I just said he's suggesting that maybe they should have development there.
Point of order.
No,
Please sit down, Councillor Carley. That's the rule.
I think Councillor Johnson is correct, Councillor Carley. So.
I'll retract that then.
Okay, thank you.
We're letting down the environment, councillors. If we don't get development here in the centre where everything is, we're going to be pushing development into the bushland through the hills and wherever else, because we need to get density into this area. We're letting down the shoppers, we're letting down the ratepayers who've invested all this money. We're letting down the PTA who are inspecting with a new train station. We're going to have people who can walk from this walkable catchment here and walk to the train station. We shouldn't be pushing people into the suburbs to get multi-storey development. We should be pushing for high-rise or semi-high-rise development within this precinct, which is the reason you set it up in the first place. You've got a choice whether you decide to go down the route of admitting that it's a failure or getting on board with the other developer in the area who's put a lot of money into this development.
Wait a second. What's your point of order?
I was going to mention it earlier on, but I didn't. The insinuation in debate that the project is a failure, I take offence to. We've had one developer already complete an 8-storey building. I believe he's already got approval from JDAP for his second 8-storey building. So to say that the Midland Oval redevelopment is a failure, I think is out of order. Thank you.
I agree with you. So, Councillor Carley, given that you are now out of time, I'll ask you to quickly close.
Well, it wasn't my point about being a failure through you, Mayor. It was Councillor Johnson's.
Yep, okay.
Thank you. Well, I was giving you the choice.
Okay,
either vote with Councillor Johnson, admit that it's a failure, which you're obviously going to do.
Point of order, Mr Mayor. My name's been dragged through.
I know. I agree with Councillor Lucas. So, have you got any further to say, or you wrap it up? I'll now put it to vote.
I'll wrap up and say we've got an obligation to our ratepayers to stick by our local planning scheme and stick by the people who've invested so far in this, which is our ratepayers.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll now put a vote. Those in favour? 3. Motion's lost. Now move the officer's recommendation. Move Councillor.
Recommendation in the report, which is not the officer's.
Move the report recommendation of Secretary and Councillor Johnson. Is anyone against? Wish to debate it again? No. Now put the vote. Those in favour? All but 3. Motion's carried. We now move to item 4.6. Councillor Johnson, you need to leave the room. Yeah, got that. Okay, Councillor, item 4.6 is to amend aspect of the development approval DA 414-19 to include solar panels and 2 sheds at lot 6 number 26, lot 151 number 28 and lot number 350 number 30, Swan Street East, and lot 22 number 53. Councillors, if you wouldn't mind. 53 East Street, Guildford. Can I have a mover and a seconder on the officers' report as presented? Moved Councillor McCulloch. Seconder, Councillor Parry. Is there anyone against? Okay. You wish to debate? Okay. In that case, I'll put it to vote. Those in favour? Okay, so everyone in favour with the exception of Councillor Richards and Councillor Coley. Therefore, the motion is carried. Councillor, recall Councillor Johnson. Yep. Councillor Johnson, now it's yours. You've withdrawn item 4.8, which is the proposed variations deemed to comply requirements for shed at lot 2177, number 357 Peachy Road, Jane Brook.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to defer this item. As we heard in the deputations tonight, there appears to be new information, and I'd like to defer it to enable councillors to become more familiar and to consult with the owner and neighbours. Thank you.
Okay. The CEO just wishes to comment.
Mr. Mayor, if we're deferring, can we have a date to come back by next council meeting or the one
next
after,
council
just
meeting,
so that we're clear?
Okay.
So defer to the next.
There's a council meeting on the 13th of October. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, the agenda settlement for the next council meeting is next week, because we've got a 3-week turnaround.
All right, in that case, back in November.
Do I have a seconder? Is anyone against? Wish to debate it? Okay. Vote. Those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Motion's carried. The next item is item 4.10, proposed single house at lot 409, number 41, Liberday Crescent, Baskerville, and a proposed motion from Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I resolve to ask Council to resolve to defer consideration of this matter to the ordinary council meeting to be held on the 13th of October 2021 to allow councillors, the applicant and objecting neighbour to meet and review the proposed house location.
We have a seconder. Councillor Zanino. Is anyone against? Carried. Now, the next one is item 411, which is statutory planning decisions under delegated authority. Councillor Kiley has indicated he wants to vote against it, so I'm going to have a mover and a seconder for the report in the agenda. Moved Councillor Congdon, seconded Councillor Parry. Councillor Kiley, you've indicated you want to be against. You wish to debate it. In that case, put the vote. Those in favour? With the exception of Councillor Kiley, the motion is carried. Councillors, in the items listed as not withdrawn, one was left off, which is item 6.5, which is the annual review of estimates and development contribution plans for South Bullsbrook Industrial, DCA 4, and Bullsbrook Residential Townsite, DCA, and the capital expenditure plan for Bullsbrook, which is item 6.5 and 357. So I just need a mover for the officer's report. Moved Councillor Parry, seconder. Councillor Johnson, is there anyone against? We'll clear that. Carried. That takes care of everything in Part B. We now move to Part C. Councillor, just want to have a quick adjournment. Sorry about that. Just wanted to clarify something. Councillor Scanlon is not with us. She has items C1.1 and C1.8. She has asked for some... C1.1 and 1.8. Oh, sorry, 1.3. She has asked for those items to be deferred, so can I have a mover in Councillor Johnson, a seconder in Councillor Lucas. Is anyone against? Okay, they are now deferred. That takes us now to C1.2 and Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I just have to turn to the item as I was expecting to do. C1.1. So, Councillor, my motion is that Council resolve to write to the owners of 39 Byers Road, Midland, being the West Australian Planning Commission, and request that the property, which is vacant, be refurbished and made available for rent, and to report the WAPC's response back to Council through the Council agenda.
Seconder in Councillor Kyle. Is anyone against? Carried. Now also Councillor Johnson, C1.4, request of the Jacobs Report 2017.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My motion is that Council resolve to write to the State Government to request a copy for distribution to councils of the Jacobs 2017 traffic report about traffic and road plans in the Midland area, and to report back to Council through the public agenda on the outcome.
Seconder?
I suppose I should do the reason.
Should
I do the reason for the motion?
If you go on.
All right. The reason for the motion is the Jacobs traffic report has been spoken about in council meetings and appears to be a significant document about state government plans, yet neither staff nor councillors have seen it. The community expect councillors and the community to be informed of plans for the district.
Seconder. Councillor Kyle. Is anyone against? Okay. Carried. Now move to C1.5. Councillor Jones, installation of sports lighting and toilet facilities on the Oval, Ellenbrook Secondary College.
Mr Mayor, I wish to withdraw this item due to the City's caretaker policies under the caretaker provisions. I recognise that the City is in caretaker mode, therefore I will move this item after the elections. If I'm not successful, I'll be asking the sitting councillor to do this for me.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jones. We now go to C1.6, Councillor Johnson, registration of councillors' membership to political parties. It's in the supplementary agenda, councillors.
Which I don't have a paper copy of, Mr Mayor. Can I borrow one from somebody? I need a paper copy. I can't read off the screen. Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. My motion is that Council resolve to report to Council on the feasibility and steps needed to establish a public register of councillors' memberships of political parties. And the reason for the motion is that councillors, when asked at the ordinary meeting of Council on the 25th of August 2021, refused to identify if they are members of a political party. Unless a register of membership is available, it is impossible for observers to conclusively identify if impartiality interest should be declared.
Seconder. Councillor Richardson. Is anyone against? Wish to debate it? Yep. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, this is a law-abiding proposal for a report on establishing a register that I am sure the community would support. This motion is not against any written law, or it would not be on the agenda, and my speech, I've checked, does not breach any written law. First of all, referring to the officer's comment with respect to this, it says that pursuant to 5.631 of the Local Government Act, some interests need not be disclosed, and this includes an interest arising only because the member is a member of a body with non-profit making objects. However, Division 6 of the Local Government Act, of which 5.63 is a part, refers only to financial and proximity interests and does not refer to interests that are adverse to impartiality. Financial and proximity interests are defined in the Local Government Act. By contrast, impartiality interests are defined in the regulations. Councillors, they are mutually exclusive, as I'm sure quite a few councillors understand. Regulation 22 of the Council's Code of Conduct applies here. In Regulation 22(1), an interest means an interest that could or could reasonably be perceived to adversely affect the impartiality of the person having the interest, and Part 2 includes an interest arising from kinship, friendship or membership of an association. The exemption in section 5.631F does not apply to Regulation 22. as students of Code of Conduct findings would be well aware. So, councillors, now is an opportunity for councillors who are members of a political party to either seek legal advice or declare an interest adverse to impartiality under Regulation 22. No? All right. Councillors, what brings membership of a political party into the realms of impartiality interests is because the purpose of a political party is for members to support common objectives. To go beyond mere membership and actually voting together in council towards jointly supporting common objectives would mean that the members of the political party need to declare an interest adverse to impartiality to each agenda item. Such voting together would likely require prior caucusing, and councillors have had confidential legal advice about that. If councillors are caucusing as party members, particularly on planning matters, they need to declare an impartiality interest. That is what Regulation 22 says. But how can council ensure these interests are declared if we don't know which councillors are members of a political party? That is why we need a register of memberships of political parties. If you are not persuaded, I can quote from a recent release of information under FOI, which I've got here. A WhatsApp group, The Clan, reported Liberal Party member Christopher Tan on the 20th of October as messaging, "We got 3 up on the City of Swan. The Libs now have the balance of power," etc. So that's what you can see just there. So that's facts as supported by the
Point of order,
government.
Mr. Mayor, please.
What's your point of order,
I
Councillor?
don't think there's a necessary thing to do this pointing at me.
I apologise. It just happened to be opposite me.
Yeah, thank you.
I could wave it at the Mayor, I suppose. Is it all right if I wave that at you, Mr. Mayor?
Well,
No, I won't.
with all due respect, that could be a piece of paper saying anything, Councillor. Perhaps you should have forwarded it to councillors prior to your speech tonight.
I've just read it out. I think it's clear we need a register of memberships of political parties. It's only a report about a register of councillors. It's just a report, councillors. It's not going to put the rates up, and if a register is established, it will mean we can identify any breaches of the recent legal advice. So, councillors, I strongly recommend you vote for this one. Thank you.
Councillor Richardson, seconder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, this is just a report. It's reasonable in this day and age that the public are made aware of any memberships or joint objectives to make a further decision in regard to any party activities or memberships, particularly during the local government election. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker against the motion. Councillor Congleton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For this one, I will stand up. Political belief or activity. In Australia, everyone has the right to vote for and support what they believe in. Your political beliefs or political activities are a protected characteristic, meaning that it is against the law for someone to treat you unfairly, discriminate against you or bully you because of your political beliefs or activity as long as they are within the law. Political belief or activity discrimination is when someone discriminates against you by bullying you or treating you unfairly because of your political beliefs or activities.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. Councillor
What's your point of order?
Well, it'd be good if he sat down so we follow the...
You can ask you to sit down if you'd like, Mr. Mayor.
You can sit down if you like, Councillor Congleton, but I would remind you, Councillor Johnson, you never asked anyone to sit down when you voted. You're in trouble, so carry on. What's your point of order?
Councillor Congleton has said twice, used the word bullying, I think, on at least 2 occasions and possibly 3. So, as I'm the only person who's spoken at any length on this so far, I assume it's being targeted at me. So, I've not bullied Councillor Congleton, so if you wouldn't mind apologising, I think that would be a good idea.
Councillor Congleton, you are reading from some kind of prepared document. Can you quote that document?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and there is no intention whatsoever referring the bullying to yourself, Councillor Johnson. I am actually reading from 2 articles that come from Australian legislation in terms of political belief or activity, and those words are mentioned within that document several times. So I'll continue if I can.
Thank you.
By bullying or treating you unfairly because your political beliefs or activities are what people think these might be. Political belief or activity means your beliefs and actions, as long as they are lawful, It also protects your rights not to hold certain beliefs and take certain actions. This means it's against the law to discriminate against you because you support a certain political party or you don't support a certain political belief. So with that, Mr Mayor, I don't think this is the recommendation put to Council is right. Everyone has the right to believe in whether it's politics, religion or otherwise, and not have to have those disclosed on any register to anybody. The Councillor's report on the reason for the motion provided by Councillor Johnson. Councillor, when asked on the ordinary meeting of 25 August 21, refused to identify the members of the political party. The officer said a councillor's membership of a political party does not in itself bring into question the lawfulness of a vote by that councillor on a matter. An individual councillor is to exercise their discretion-making responsibilities based on the merits of the matter and with the impartiality of the interest of all ratepayers and residents, pursuant to section 5.63 bracketed 1 of the Local Government Act 1995. Some interests need to be disclosed, and this includes an interest arising only because the relevant member is or intends to become a member or a public bearer or a body of non-profit making objects.
Thank you, Councillor Congdon. Speaker for the motion. Any speakers against? Councillor Kiley.
Thank you, Mayor, and apologies for looking like I'm flicking through my phone. I'm not. I've been looking at the Local Government Act in terms of when somebody has an interest, and I haven't got to the point where I wanted to read that out, but I do believe that an interest in a political party is an interest in common with many people in the community who also have political interests. So I think it falls under that, and I think that's one point that I think it should, therefore we shouldn't have to declare it. I am a member of the Labor Party, but I don't think it has any value in this room, and I don't bring that into this room as a member of the Labor Party. I come into this room to make decisions on verges and sheds and roads, and they're not things that the Labor Party or the Liberal Party want to get involved in. That's for the most part. The second reason I'm against the motion is because there is enough divide in the room without trying to label each other. Well, you're on that side and I'm on this side. We don't need any more of that. I think we just need to reach out to, each other in the room and get on with each other and not try and find reasons to further divide the chamber. I'm enjoying working with members that I know who are of the Liberal Party, and I think they make great councillors, and there are community members out there who may be a member of the Liberal Party, Labor Party or Greens who also will make good councillors. I don't want to put them off from being a councillor simply because when they get in this chamber they will be labelled or have to declare something. So I don't think it serves the community well that we start wearing red or blue jackets when we enter the chamber. Thank you.
Speaker 4. Any speakers against? Councillor Richards, aren't you the seconder? So you've already spoken. Okay. Any speakers for or against? Councillor Henderson, I think you were first.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wonder how far this might go. For instance, if there's a declaration, would you declare that you might be a member of the Labor Party or Liberal Party? That's where this is sort of hedged, I believe. Or the Greens Party or the National Party or maybe an independent, because if you're an independent, you actually might have some views of the world that could be deemed to be political, because that's what independence is. But more importantly, Councillor Kiley hit it on the head in terms of the way the Act's written. But, even the state law is overridden by one fundamental law. That's common law and the High Court. The High Court has deemed that in this country you have freedom of political expression. Do you know what that means? Freedom to express whether you are Liberal, Labor or whatever, or not to say whatsoever. You have complete freedom that's been declared and determined. Other councils of red, blue or even whatever colour have tried to do this kind of thing in the past, and they've all been knocked on the head by that High Court decision. This is folly, councillors. It shouldn't be done. Thank you.
Speaker for. Speaker against. Councillor Lucas.
Thank you. I've never heard Councillor Kiley debate so well in my time in the chamber. I agree with everything he said. And I've actually got a blue jacket on, but I'm not a member of any party. For my whole time on council, when I retire, I'll be joining the Shooters, Fishers and Farmers Party because I shoot, I fish, and my family's into farming. But the question that was asked at the last council meeting by Councillor Johnson wasn't who's a member of any political party, it was who was a member of the Liberal Party. Put your hand up. Well, I couldn't put my hand up because I wasn't a member of any party. He didn't say any party, he specified one party. Had he have said Labor, Nationals, One Nation, Green, Daylight Saving, Marijuana Party, I still couldn't have put my hand up. Whatever. I understand where he's coming from, but I must agree with everything Councillor Kiley said. Who cares if you want to be a member of a bingo club or a football club or whatever, as long as you don't let that association, and sometimes if that football club or bingo club's got an application, then you must declare it and leave the chambers if you can't keep your impartiality or there's a financial interest. But as far as political party goes, that's up to each and every one of you. I've never debated an item, have never been asked to debate an item on political grounds, and I think it's a very dangerous course you go down. In fact, I would even suggest councillors would get voted in and off council by declaring who they're politically aligned with, particularly if they're in a strong Liberal or Labor area and they're in the opposite party. You might not even get the votes you want to get onto council because you live in an area that may have a different political persuasion. So I just can't accept the motion. I understand why he wants to do it, but I don't think it's a good motion. I agree with Councillor Kiley. Politics should not come into local government. Unfortunately, I know that some political parties either groom or pick candidates from local government, but maybe that's because they're experienced in public speaking, because they've got a profile already in the community, and it's easier to promote someone like that than picking someone who's not known. So I'll leave it at that, but Councillor Kiley, your debate was outstanding. Thank you.
Any further speakers for or against? Councillor Johnson, your right to reply.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, it's a good point made by Councillor Lucas. Politics should not come into local government, and that's the entire purpose of having a register, so that interested observers can determine for sure that politics is not coming into local government. Councillor Henderson said that we have freedom of expression, political expression in Australia, and that's a fact. But the question I've got is, if you have got political expression, why aren't you expressing it through declaring your interest in a membership of a political party? We need to know, particularly when we're looking at planning matters, where everybody stands. The purpose of this is to get transparency, to understand if there is a pattern of voting which is taking place. At the moment, we can't tell that. Everyone has a right to be a member of a political party.
Point of order, I'd take exception to that statement that effectively we are locked into a position.
Yeah, I do agree with you, Councillor Henderson, so I'll ask you to retract that, Councillor Johnson.
What have I got to retract exactly?
You're retracting your comment about voting pattern. You're insinuating councillors aren't making a decision based on information before them, so I'll ask you to retract it and carry on, please.
No, I'll retract that.
We've got about 30 seconds left.
So, councillors, the report that you see before us, which tells you that 5.631F gives you some kind of immunity from declaring declaring a impartiality interest, is simply incorrect. It is absolutely wrong. If you fail to declare an impartiality interest, you may be in for a surprise. And I think councillors who have done their exams or studied this or studied Code of Conduct findings will know full well that financial and impartiality interests are in the Local Government Act, and they are mutually exclusive from the Code of Conduct complaints that are in the regulation. So Regulation 22, that covers impartiality interests, has no overlap whatsoever with the Local Government Act. So the two things are mutually exclusive. It's either one or the other. So the staff report here is saying that you don't have to disclose it, but then that's correct. If you've got a financial or proximity interest, you don't have to disclose it. But
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. That's your time.
Well, if it's an impartiality interest, you
Councillor,
should.
that's your time. I'll put a vote. Those in favour? 2. Therefore, the motion fails. Now move to item C1.7, Councillor Catalano and the Lockridge Community Garden.
Thank you. I just want to make a point before I start, and that is that initially when I put this motion up, I was advised that it would contravene the policy, the caretaker policy. And I mean, I was quite happy with that. I was quite happy that it wouldn't be put up. But then I was then advised that, oh no, it was okay. It was going to go on the...
Okay,
did you want
the
to...
CEO like to comment?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. The reason being, Councillor Catalano, is that the decision was made by myself to exclude all notices of motion in relation to the caretaker policy. However, it was brought to my attention by a councillor that the meeting procedures local law and a certain section of that meant that I could only exclude if the notices of motion were in breach of a written law. So therefore, the meeting procedures local law override the policy, and therefore, without excluding one, I then put all of them back in and leaving it up to councillors to make that decision themselves this evening.
So then can I just have, I mean, this is just not part of my, I want some clarification then. So, I mean, if I put this motion up, then I'm not going to be in breach of the caretaker provisions, am I?
Through you, Mr Mayor, no. That's your decision.
Well, it's just that, okay, well then I will continue because I've, let people know that I was going to be speaking tonight under the belief that
you just
it was...
move your motion, Councillor.
Okay, to do so. Yeah, thank you. So that Council resolved to request the CEO to prepare a report to Council to identify options to expand or deliver alternative uses of the Lockridge Community Garden and Shed. Request that in constructing this report, the Lockridge community be offered the chance to be consulted. Request that the report consider the costs of any expanded use and any planning or other impediments.
You have a seconder? Councillor Kyle, is anyone against?
Oh, the reason is that I've had a lot of community members who've requested being able to use the space, and I'm just doing what they wanted me to do.
Okay. Those against were Councillor Lucas and Councillor Perry. You wish to debate it? Yep. Okay. Councillor Galano.
Okay, thank you. Once I just want to point out that this is actually a report. We're not actually going ahead with it. We're just constructing a report to see what kind of uses the Lockridge Community Gardens, the community garden and shed, that particular facility, I'll call it, can be put to in respect of the Lockridge community of residents and ratepayers. So I haven't been contacted by the committee, the committee that's currently running it. So I don't know, but I do want to say that one of the first things I did when I got onto council, I was asked for a tap to be installed at the garden centre, and in fact, there is now a tap there. So it's not. I'm not against the community garden at all. Not gardens in community garden at all. And I've had many conversations with the manager of wellbeing about this facility in the 2.5 years I've been on council, and that was about the successful uses of the space and the not so successful uses and relationships that have basically evolved to do with this facility. So what we know is that the City of Swan has issued a licence agreement with 6054 committee, and that's why I'm raising it tonight, because it is actually a City of Swan licence that allows them to have exclusive use of the facility at the moment, and I'm aware that that's going to be for a couple of years down the track yet, so that's fine. Let's then now look at what happens when that licence comes up again, so that we can perhaps get some better engagement with the community. Now, I've door-knocked the community, and I've attended a couple of community meetings recently, and it doesn't need any prompting by me for the community to let me know that their relationship with the community garden as it's currently run is neither harmonious nor successful. And I believe the CEO himself was there at a meeting we had. And one thing that they're particularly concerned with is that a member of the Lockridge community ran a fortnightly barbecue and gave away food and other bread, yeah. But the most important thing was it was absolutely fantastic, and he did that from the shed. And I attended it, and I tell you what, it was the most fantastic social event. I mean, it was very, very, very basic and very simple, but it was just such a good feeling that he was imbuing in the community. And there were so many people there. It was a fantastic atmosphere. It was really, really great. And we had Lockridge, all different kinds of Lockridge residents attended, and they were enjoying a meal and they were socialising, and it was fantastic. But then I've been told now that Bernie is no longer able to use the shed. And on the 20th of July, I was advised by staff, so that shows you I've been talking to staff about this for some time. Staff emailed me on the 20th of July that 6054 committee informed Bernie, and that's the fellow who runs the, he calls it the blood he shed because he's a Christian, and he's, but it's that they informed Bernie that he had to relocate from the community garden as his activities were no longer consistent with those of the community garden. Now, local residents are not happy about this. Bernie is one of their community. He is a Lockridge community member, resident through and through. So, there's apparently different ways that they can get in touch with the committee and, organise, make their complaints known. But, I mean, that's just not going to happen. Lockridge locals didn't get in touch with the committee. In fact, they got in touch with me. I'm their representative for the City of Swan, and it's the City of Swan that issues the licence. So that's fair enough as well. So all in all, the whole of this kind of conversation I've had with the community leads me to question, actually, the so-called success of the community garden to facilitate community engagement activities.
Councillor Catalano, you're out of time. If you could wrap it up, please.
Okay, so that's not what I'm hearing from both sides. So anyway, if there are issues, whatever issues they are, it'd be great to see what those issues are in a report so that we can move on from there and get everybody working together at that space. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll try to be brief. Councillors, running a garden, no matter whether it's a community garden or your own garden, is a difficult thing given all the rain we've had recently in particular. The 6054 Community Resource Association do a great job in giving their personal time in running this community garden, and I congratulate them for their efforts and their commitment to keeping this garden going, because they're there, I think, every Saturday and possibly Sunday on occasions, and do a great job. So my backing of this motion is not a reflection on the work that the 6054 group is doing. I think that it will serve a value to the community and to 6054 community group to actually look at what they might need to enhance what they're currently doing and to add to it. I know that Councillor Lucas, myself and Councillor Catalano attended a Lockridge community meeting last week, and one of the items that came up was the need for a toilet on that site, and I haven't spoken to 6054 community group about their requirement for a toilet, but that seemed to be a need to look into that, and we said at that community meeting we would look into a toilet for that site. So this is about enhancing what's already happening and respecting 6054's work. not detracting from it or not looking at, removing their rights to use it. I want to look at how we can expand it, as the motion says, and how we can further add to it to improve it, whether it be a toilet, whether it be money for more garden beds, maybe some sort of fence that can be keep certain people out. I'm not too sure, but we need to have a report, because on the one hand, that we do get, as a council, we do get complaints about access, but they are far and few between. And I'd like to point out that on the weekend there was an invite put out for people to attend on Saturday. There was a Facebook post that I'd put out for people to attend at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, and the response back was that nobody in the community turned up. The fact of the matter is, when you run a community garden, it's so difficult to get people involved in actually doing the work. The concept of a community garden is great. We all want to get there and grow vegetables, but the reality is so few people have the time or the inclination to actually get there and do it week after week after week, which is what a garden needs. So, but this report will hopefully find ways to assist 6054 and the broader community, and hopefully enhance the garden area. Thank you.
Speaker against the motion. Councillor Lucas.
Thank you. I think this is a good motion, but it's about 4 years too early, because earlier this year the City of Swan signed an exclusive agreement with the SIX, and it's spelled SIX and then 054 Community Resource Association. They're a properly incorporated body. They have a president, a vice president, treasurer, secretary, as required by the City of Swan. If you want to use our facilities, you have to be incorporated. Therefore, they're eligible to apply for Lotterywest and other government grants. So, having just signed an agreement, and I'll ask if Mr Coaten can confirm my understanding, it's a 3 + 2 years, so for the next 5 years that group has got a 5-year exclusive management order on that property. Mr Coaten?
Yes, it is an exclusive lease. I don't have the dates in front of me, but that sounds right, yes.
But it was re-signed earlier this year. And the reason they needed 5 years, because we were looking at a 1-year option. They said, we can't apply for a Lotterywest grant if we've only got 1 year lease on the land. We can't grow vegetables to sustain the local community. We can't grow fruit trees to sustain the local community and offer them free food if we only have a 1 year lease. So they've got a 5-year lease. That's the current user group. I was at both those Lockridge community meetings, and there were a couple of, I'll say, peeved off people about what had happened about the provision of free bread and perhaps a barbecue. That was an issue between, I'll say, the chief gardener, Kate, who rang me today because she knew this item was coming up, and Councillor Kiley quite correctly said, at our last meeting, Kate left a message for him and said, if anyone's got any suggestions, any issues, any grievances, turn up on Saturday, we'll be there to discuss them. Guess what? Nobody turned up. I believe it's also been on social media on the Lockridge community page, which has about 4,000 active members. I don't do social media, but this is what Kate told me again today. Over the last couple of weeks it's been on there. What do you want to see the shed for? There was no comments, there was no likes, and there was no dislikes. So, unfortunately, the Lockridge community must become more invested. Unfortunately, Kate, the head gardener, she comes from Bayswater. The CEO of 6054 Community Research Association, she lives in Bassendean. So we've actually got people living outside of our city, and particularly outside of Lockridge, who are making this thing a goer. It's only a small shed. It can't be everything to everyone. That's where they store their wheelbarrow, their shovels, their rakes, their little bit of fertiliser to get the garden growing. And you know the biggest disappointment that she expresses? They just get some crops coming up and people go and steal all their plants. So unfortunately, usually it's the people who live in that community. And the last 2 photos she sent me, there's a lady walking off with 2 pretty mature plants under each arm, and a man's walking away with a wheelbarrow with about 15 plants in it. So they can't even get the vegetables and the crops established before they get stolen. And then with the passion fruit and the other small seed fruits, young kids pinch them off the vines before they're ready and have fights. So there are some issues with running a garden, but I give credit. Now, they've been incorporated since 2009, but that community garden has been going for more than 20 years. We built them a pizza oven, and every Friday and Saturday night you go along and have a pizza oven. They haven't done that because there's not the interest in that community. So I support that we should be expanding the options for using that land and that shed. But while we've got a current exclusive agreement, I think we just have to let sleeping dogs lie. I can't think of anything better. We can think about things over the next 3 to 4 years of how to reinvigorate. We've had tremendous social occasions down there on weekends and midweek where they've done their food and they've done sausage sizzles, particularly when one of our former community development officers, before she passed away, and there was issues in that community between Indigenous and Maori people. We had a big hungy come barbecue with smoking ceremonies, and the whole community came together. So I think we have to be respectful of the fact that we've just signed an exclusive agreement, that they have now got the management of that site. They want it to be successful.
Thanks, Councillor Lucis.
And I
5 minutes.
I don't encourage us to go out for a report just yet.
Thank you. Speaker for the motion.
Question, Mayor.
Question.
Through you to staff, does this mean we have to wait for 5 years before we even look at the option of a toilet or expanding or helping them in helping 6054 group, or
Mr. Coaten, Mr. CEO.
Well, it doesn't mean having an exclusive lease doesn't prevent us from helping them.
They can ask. Okay. So, Speaker 4.
Mr. Mayor, I'm supporting this particular motion because of what Councillor Lucas has just said. Councillor Lucas has given us more information in the last minute or 2 minutes than we've had since 5 years ago. This particular organisation, this particular report is all in Councillor Lucas's head. It's not going to cost a penny to do it from the point of view of the staff. From the point of view of the local councillors and the ward councillors, they all know those people. So irrespective of what agreement we have with these people, as Mr. Jim Coaten has just said, it doesn't stop us from helping them. So let's do the report. Let's get if there is stuff out there that we can help with it. This report is not going to hinder anything like that. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McNamara. Any further speakers for or against? Councillor Parry.
I have nothing against the community garden whatsoever. I question the timing of the motion that it's been raised. I strongly believe the election caretaker modes or should be adhered to. That's the only reason why I'm going to vote against it. If it was done in November, I'd support it absolutely, but I just doubt the timing of it, and that's why I'm voting against it. Thank you.
Any further speakers for or against? Councillor Catalano, if you could close, please.
Thank you. Well, I mean, if it is defeated tonight, then I will bring it back if I'm on council. As I said, I was quite happy not to bring it to the meeting tonight. But anyway, just getting to the licence, I was under the impression that that they had a 2-year licence, and I want to say this was done under delegated authority. I had no idea that the licence was being executed or even negotiated earlier in the year, but I was talking to staff about it long before that, about the issues that I've raised tonight. So unfortunately that agreement was executed without my input, which was a shame. It was an actual shame. And And I think that it was a 2-year licence with 2-year option to renew. Now, you know, that renewal process may also, if this report gets done now, and I mean, reports don't take 5 minutes to do. I mean, there's a lot of things to look at. You know, that can inform that renewal process as well, because at the end of the day, 6054 and the community, if they're actually working together to actually make this facility work for the community as well as for the people who are running the facility, if it works well, and so that they're not having their vegetables stolen and they, you know, all this vandalism that they're saying they're having, and then if the community is happy because there's a place for them to use at the facility as well, then that's really would be beneficial to everybody, and surely that's what we should be trying to promote here tonight. And you know, really, it's only common sense, and I don't think timing is. I think there's no time like the present. We've got a serious issue. It's been going on for some time. It's not getting better. You know, people are calling meetings saying you can turn up to a meeting. No one turns up to a meeting. Things are still getting vandalised. People are unhappy. Why are we carrying on with this unhappiness? Let's look at ways that we can possibly resolve some of these issues so that in the future, when it comes up again for negotiation and they've got their option to renew that licence, they might have different ideas put to them that'll come out of this report.
Thank you, Councillor Catalano. That's your 3 minutes. Now put the vote. Those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Motion fails. Now move to C or 1.8, which is again is Councillor Catalano.
Thank you. Well, this is another one of those ones that I put up, and it's not something that I've raised overnight or because of the election caretaker period. It's one that I've been talking to the operations manager for quite some time about the outcomes of our park upgrades, and the fact that I just think that we're not quite hitting the mark. And actually that was spelt out to me when people actually expressed around Sacramento Park in Beachborough. Actually,
Mr Mayor, she got to read the motion.
Oh, sorry. So
Thank you.
Please stop me. Why don't you stop me?
Mr Mayor.
Going so well, Councillor.
Sorry, I'll read the motion. Anyway, motion that Council resolve to request the CEO to present a report to a future meeting of Council on the feasibility of installing an all ages, and I should just put / all abilities. Can we have that change? All abilities. Passionate about it. Nature play space at Ottawa Park. Maybe can I take out nature as well? Just from feedback I've had, Play space at Ottawa Park, Beachborough. The report is to include information of costs, design components, parking, toilets and barbecues. Thank you.
Secondary Councillor Kiley. You probably don't need to open the debate, you've already done it.
Apologies for that, but I was waiting. Why don't you pull me up? You pull everyone else up.
I was just going to let
it's
you
getting
go
to be a habit.
See how long before you hung yourself. Councillor Kiley is the seconder.
Oh, I haven't finished.
Well, you
no.
said
I mean, was there any opposition? I'm waiting for the opposition. Thank you.
Is there anyone against?
I am same principle as C1.7.
Amendment. Okay. Well, let's see if I get it. So I've got a secondary, Councillor Kiley. What's your amendment, Councillor Lucas?
To remove the words at Ottawa Park. I think if we're going to have a report, we should look at the feasibility and look at more than just one park, because Ottawa Park may not be the most suitable due to parking restrictions, etc. What's my amendment?
And with your amendment, can I ask for a slight change to that, in as much as at one park in Beachborough, because I don't intend to bring in a one of these play spaces at every park in Beachborough, just one sort of, yeah. Is that going to be okay with you?
Well, I'm just trying to read it now. Council on the feasibility to install all ages ability play space in Beachborough. So, on Beachborough.
Is you right now, Mr. Councillor Lucas? Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy
Got
with that.
Seconder for that amendment. It's okay with the mover. Seconder.
We're happy with it anywhere in Altone Ward.
No, I'm sorry.
So you accept we're going to...
So do you want me to start the
debate?
debate?
The amendment? Yes, Councillor Lucas.
Thank you. Just simply put, there are a number of parks in Beachborough that would be, I think, more suitable for a all abilities ages play space, and that's why I've said it should be in Beachborough. It's the main hub of the Altone ward, and some of the newer suburbs in the Altone place, being Dayton, Caversham, have had developers put in very substantial playgrounds which cater for a lot of those issues already, and I think that Beachborough, being one of the older suburbs, is deserving of a major all ages abilities play space. It's got the land, it's got the parks. You could pick Lockridge or Kiara, but they're very limited on their public open space. Beachborough's got a lot more parks, and I think that's the most suitable location for it in the Altone ward. Thank you.
Thank you. Against the amendment. Okay. Councillor Catalano, I got you here as a seconder, but the problem was you moved the original motion. So you can't actually second it. Councillor Johnson's going to take your place and help you out. So then, Councillor Johnson, you better speak.
Nothing to add.
Okay. Speaker against the motion. The amendment. Councillor Henderson.
Councillors, I'm actually against the first motion, but the second motion nails it in Beachborough. You know, could say this is a bit of a political move leading into a council election, and then I would ask the real question: why isn't this being raised at budget time? Why aren't we putting in our budget requests for the things that we need in our area? I can tell you in Swan Valley Ward, there's a whole stack of places we would like things done. Not just Beachborough. There are significant wishes and wants all over the place, and we should be dealing with those at budget time. So I won't support this amendment or the main motion. Thank you, because of that.
Anyone else wish to speak to the amendment? Councillor Kiley.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't agree with the amendment. I wouldn't like to restrict the choice of location to just Beachborough. I am fully in support of an intergenerational play space anywhere in the Altone ward, and I would like to see all options considered. In particular, I'd like to look at the land which is currently the paddocks for the Kiara School on the south side of Benara Road, which in the future, if developed, could incorporate a large play space, intergenerational play space, which would have adequate parking. And the difficulty in looking at Beachborough alone is we have restrictions on parking anywhere. The parks there are nearby existing residences, and I think that the parking demands of an intergenerational play space just in Beachborough would be too great an imposition on the residences in the area. So I would like to look at other area in the Altone ward, other areas, and in particular that land that is mooted for development in the future south of Benara Road, which is in Kiara. So thank you. I can't agree with the amendment.
I can
speak to this one though, can't I?
Well, to the amendment you can, yes. We've gone in.
Thank you. Thanks for that. The reason why I have got Beechborough and why I've asked for this to be in Beechborough is because it's been requested in Beechborough, and also because there's actually a play space, a nature play space a concept plan for it that's going to be going in to the budget for next year for Caversham, which missed out this year in the budget. Inadvertently, it wasn't meant to. It was meant to go in this year, but that's going to be for Caversham. That's a nature play space. And in terms of why isn't this being raised at budget time, because this is just a report. This is not actually the play space. It's not actually a motion about the play space. It's actually a motion about informing us so that when I actually come around to budget time, I've got more information about the feasibility of any location in Beechborough. And let's just say, I mean, Beechborough has got the significant population in the Eltone ward, and very central to lots of residents. I want to stick with Beechborough. I think Beechborough is definitely the target area. There's going to be one at Caversham, and I'm happy with the idea that other parks can be looked at. I only chose Ottawa because that was requested of me. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor, I don't want to spend too much time on this. Councillor Lucas, you got right to reply?
Yes, I was trying to get your attention very early before the motion, because I was going to request Councillor Catalano deferred this until after the election period, but I didn't get your attention, Mayor. Like Councillor Parry said, that's why I didn't support the last one. But seeing we have that motion before us, this is, as Councillor Catalano has just pointed out, this is Councillor Henderson. This has no financial in-cost at the current point, particularly for next year or the year after that maybe. It's to present a report to a future meeting of Council. The reports will include information on costing, design, components, parking, toilets and barbecues. So now it is before us. I just wanted Beechborough to be the recipient of that all abilities. The suburb of Beechborough has been established for well over 40 years now. A lot of the parks are substandard. Newer areas such as Caversham and Dayton have a lot newer parks, and as I said, the reason I didn't support Kiara or Lockridge or Bennett Springs is they have just got their bare minimum 10%, where the suburb of Beechborough has got a lot more parks, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lucas. I now put the amendment. Those in favour? 7, 8. The motion is carried. That becomes part of the substantive motion.
Amendment, Mr Mayor.
Further amendment. All right, let's hear it.
Yes, my amendment would be that there would be a number 3. And the number 3 would be that this report would insist that any feasibility for the installation of an all-ages nature play space would not take precedent over existing plans for existing feasibility studies and at the moment that are there. So rather than have this jump a queue, which there's many a queue at the moment, so number 3 would be that the report would insist that this would not take precedent over existing plans.
Or feasibility.
Or
take out the end and put in all.
Or feasibilities, yes. Feasibility studies which are existing at the moment. Thank you.
Could I have a second to that amendment? So I've got a second to Councillor Parry. What's your question?
So if it goes, behind, I don't know how many other reports there are. I mean, just wondering, when is this likely to be got around to?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I mean, we'd have to weigh it up with other priorities and feasibility reports that we've got coming. So, I mean, we wouldn't know when it would come back to council. It would just be within the fullness of time. as we plan throughout that.
Is there no chance that we could put, say, within the next 6 months or the next next budget? Yeah. Or do I just put it up at the budget? Is that what you want me to put, just without the report?
Just leave it as it is, and we'll go through in its own time, and we'll go through, and nature will bring it through.
But it sounds as though that could be like, how long is a piece of string? It could be like years, do you think?
Well, through you, Mr. Irwin, it wouldn't be years. We would probably incorporate it as part of our planning leading into the budget if we can get it done within that time. But at first, I mean, we've got to look at what other priorities and what other feasibility reports that within the operations division Mr. Coaten would have to complete. Do you want to respond, Jim?
Yeah, we could do a desktop study reasonably easy, but it would just be, we've got a big queue of work to do. We're not sitting around looking for work to do. So if we wanted to, get something reasonably quickly, we'd have to jump it up near not to the front of the queue perhaps, but jump it in front of some other things that are queued for action. So a desktop study can look at the things in terms of like the land area that's required, the parking, the land tenure issues, a whole range of things like that. And the biggest issue we have with these sort of things is parking and complaints from neighbours and things like that. So that would have to be something that consideration would have to be given to. And probably the most similar example that I can think of that we've done recently would be the Balladura intergenerational playground. And, I would think in terms of identifying all the sites, doing the studies, shortlisting them down to 3 possible sites, discussions with the ward councils and things like that. I think that's probably taken us 12 months to get where we are. And a bit longer, yeah. Yep.
This won't jump in front of yours.
Question?
Yes, Councillor Johnson.
Have we got a typo in this amendment? Where it says precedent, it should say precedence.
Is there a seconder to the amendment? Councillor Parry. Is there anyone against the amendment? There is. Debate, just push straight away.
I just want to say this is no way intended to leapfrog over any other existing parks or feasibility studies. This will come in the fullness of time, and I thought I explained that. It might take several years to get to the stage where you've already got, and I'm hoping, because the staff have already gone through this process for the All Adventure Playground in the Whiteman ward, we may be able to fast track onto the back of that because you've done all the hard work. There's no way that we're going to take precedence, jump over the top of you. I think it's just a part 3 that doesn't really need any part of this motion because it looks like we're in a competition and we aren't.
Okay. Right. I'm going to now put the motion for that amendment. Those in favour of the amendment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The amendment. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and me is 7. Okay. Motion is carried. Now we go back to the substantive motion. Wherever we were.
Just put it, I think.
Is there any? Okay, we'll go straight to any further speakers for or against the substantive motion. In that case, I'll put the substantive motion. Those in favour?
Can we just have it on the board, Mr Mayor, because it's still...
So we've got those you need to add, yeah.
Those amendments haven't gone into that.
We're just cutting and pasting it in there.
Thank you.
I think we've done this one to death, Councillor. I can call a vote any time.
So put that up there.
Did you have a reason? You didn't have a reason. You didn't have a reason, did you, for that motion, which was basically it was requested from the community?
Councillor McNamara said didn't want to take precedence, so I think the reason spoke for itself.
No, I'm talking about the substantive motion, sorry.
The original reason for the motion,
Your original reason, Councillor Catalano, that's what you were saying.
Is it there? Yeah, is it there? No, that's all. I just thought about that. It was requested by the community, a number of times.
Yep. Good now? Okay. Those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Motion's carried. Councillors, that's all we have for tonight. So with that, we'll close the meeting. Thank you very much.